When I tell you that the entire world around you is a mirror reflecting your inner conversations, I mean it literally. Nothing in your outer world exists apart from what you are imagining within yourself. You may believe that your wealth lies in your bank account, your job, or your business, but the true source of every dollar, every opportunity, every open door is imagination. I discovered this when I did something so simple, so childlike, that it almost felt foolish. I closed my eyes. You see, most people spend their lives with their eyes wide open, gazing at the evidence of lack, of delay, of impossibility. They think the world is fixed, that circumstances are solid and immovable. But I tell you, your world is not concrete, it is clay, and the sculptor's hands are not out there. They are in here, within your own imagination. The moment I closed my eyes, I turned away from appearances. I stopped arguing with the world. I stopped reacting to what seemed real. I withdrew my attention from what was and placed it upon what I desired to be. That moment was the true beginning of my $1,000,000 reality. I did not need to move a finger, make a phone call, or chase opportunity. I simply shifted my awareness. And the moment you shift awareness, the universe rearranges itself to match that new state. I went from being a man trying to make money to a man who was money, who embodied abundance. It wasn't an affirmation. It wasn't a wish. It was an assumption so real that my body felt it, my emotions confirmed it, and my imagination sustained it. I remember that night vividly. I sat alone in my room, the lights dim, my heart heavy with frustration. My outer world screamed lack. Bills on the table, emails unanswered, clients lost, the sense that the dream was slipping away. But something in me refused to surrender. I had read Neville's words again and again. Man's chief delusion is his conviction that there are causes other than his own state of consciousness. And in that moment, I realized nothing out there was the cause. It was all me. My consciousness, my self-concept, my inner conversations had produced it all. So I did what Neville taught. I turned my attention inward. I closed my eyes, not in defeat, but in divine authority. The noise of the world faded. The sense of urgency melted. I entered that inner kingdom where all creation begins. And with my eyes closed, I began to feel the reality I longed to experience. I didn't say I was a millionaire. I felt it. I didn't repeat it as though convincing myself. I assumed it as though it were already done. I imagined holding the evidence in my hand, the feeling of security, of freedom, of abundance flowing through me. I heard in my imagination the voice of someone congratulating me. I smelled the scent of success, felt the smooth leather of a new car's steering wheel, saw the glow of the account balance on a screen that read numbers I had never seen before. And then something changed, not outside but within. The heaviness lifted, the anxiety dissolved, the air itself seemed charged with a quiet certainty. I was no longer trying to manifest wealth. I was being wealth. That night, before sleep took me, I felt what Neville called the savor of the wish fulfilled. I slept in that feeling, not as a man who desired, but as one who already was. In the days that followed, something strange happened. The world began to rearrange itself. Unexpected calls came. People I hadn't heard from in years reached out with opportunities. Payments I had long forgotten about suddenly appeared. New clients appeared effortlessly, and the momentum of abundance started moving like a river that had always been there but had been blocked by my disbelief. You see, the world didn't suddenly decide to favor me. It had always been favoring me. I had simply been blind to it, living in a state of separation, believing that someday I would be rich. But when I closed my eyes, I entered that someday. I stepped into the state of already having, and because consciousness is the only reality, The outer world had no choice but to conform. I want you to understand something vital. You are not creating wealth, you are revealing it. Everything you desire already exists in a parallel state of consciousness. When you align with that version of yourself through imagination, you merge timelines. You collapse the distance between what you want and who you are. The act of closing your eyes is symbolic. It means withdrawing from the illusion of lack and identifying with abundance. Every millionaire, every success story, every miracle ever manifested was born in imagination first. Before a mansion stands on a hill, it exists as a vision in someone's mind. Before a business empire rises, it is conceived as a thought. The imagination is the womb of reality, and whatever seed you plant, there grows in your world. When I closed my eyes that night, I didn't escape reality. I entered the only true reality. For the world of imagination is not fantasy. It is creation in its purest form. The physical world is merely the shadow cast by your inner light. So, if you wish to change your shadow, you must change the source, the light within. I began to live differently, not because I forced change, but because I was changed. My conversation shifted. I stopped speaking of when and began speaking from now. I stopped waiting for opportunities and began assuming they were already mine. I no longer saw myself as one reaching for wealth, but as one radiating wealth. The energy shifted so dramatically that people around me could feel it without knowing why. Friends began saying, "You look different," or "Something about you feels powerful." What they were sensing was the change in consciousness. I had entered a new state, and my outer form reflected it. Neville said, "Change your conception of yourself, and you will automatically change the world in which you live." I was living proof. The first tangible signs of my new reality came gently, almost playfully, as if the universe was winking at me. A small deal I thought had fallen through resurfaced. Then, a random email led to a collaboration that multiplied my income beyond imagination. The speed at which things unfolded was breathtaking, but the real miracle was the effortless ease. It felt as if I was no longer chasing life. Life was chasing me. When you close your eyes and assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled, you are speaking the only language the universe understands, feeling. Words are surface, feeling is creation. You can affirm wealth all day long, but if your feeling is of lack, your world will mirror lack. But even 1 minute of pure assumption, one deep breath of I am, can shift an entire lifetime of struggle. I realized that the act of closing your eyes is not about shutting out the world, it's about opening the inner vision. The $1,000,000 version of you already exists in consciousness. He or she is not far away. They live within the eternal now. When you close your eyes, you meet them. You feel their confidence, their ease, their knowing. And as you dwell with them in imagination, you merge. From that moment on, I lived in two worlds, the seen and the unseen was more real to me. I would go about my day knowing that I carried within me the power that shaped galaxies. Every time I paid a bill, I imagined abundance returning multiplied. Every time I saw something expensive, I didn't say, "I can't afford that," I said, "That's mine in consciousness." And soon enough, the reflection caught up. There came a morning when I checked my bank account and saw numbers that once lived only in my imagination. I smiled, not in surprise but in gratitude, because by then I understood the law. The outer world is slow motion imagination. What you hold within long enough will crystallize without. I had closed my eyes, not to dream, but to awaken. And here is the truth few understand. Your imagination is not pretending. It is perceiving a higher reality. When you imagine wealth, love, or success, you are not creating them from nothing. You are tuning into the frequency where they already exist. Like a radio receiver, you don't invent the broadcast, you simply align with it. So I say to you, close your eyes, not once but often. When fear rises, close your eyes. When doubt whispers, close your eyes. When the world seems too loud, too chaotic, too impossible, close your eyes and return to the stillness where all things are made new. Enter the secret place of the Most High within you. There you will meet the self that already is. You see, there are infinite versions of you existing simultaneously. The poor version, the struggling version, the abundant version, the millionaire version. They are all states of consciousness. You move between them not by effort, but by assumption. You don't climb into a new reality, you rest in it. You don't fight circumstances, you feel beyond them. The moment you say, I am that, you claim the state. The world will try to argue with you. It will show you your bank balance, your bills, your so-called failures. But if you hold the inner state unwaveringly, the evidence will bend. The bridge of incidents will unfold so naturally that you may forget you ever imagined it. But at its root, it was always imagination first. My $1,000,000 reality was not the result of grinding, hustling, or striving. It was the effortless unfolding of a state I assumed to be true. I no longer prayed for wealth. I thanked God that I was wealth. I no longer asked for abundance. I embodied it. And the moment I stopped chasing and began being, the floodgates opened. Neville said, "The world is yourself pushed out." So if you want to see wealth, push out wealth from within. Feel it, live it, sleep in it, breathe it. Let your imagination paint the picture so vividly that your senses are tricked, and then let it go. Let the universe rearrange itself, for it will. Every great mystic knew this truth. Jesus spoke it when he said, "When thou prayest, believe that ye have received it, and ye shall have it." Notice, he didn't say you will receive it someday. He said believe you already have it. That is the essence of assumption. That is creation. That is power. The human imagination is God in action. Every time you close your eyes and feel from your desired state, you are performing a divine act of creation. You are rewriting the script of your life from within. And when you open your eyes again, you walk into the world you have formed. So now, when I look around at my life, the abundance, the freedom, the peace, I know it all began in that silent moment when I dared to believe more in the unseen than the seen. I closed my eyes and opened a $1,000,000 reality, not by force, but by faith. If there is one truth I could carve into the walls of your heart, it is this: your imagination is the only reality. Do not worship the facts of life. They are old imaginations, crystallized. Worship only the unseen power within you that can remake all things. For as you imagine, so shall you become. When you close your eyes tonight, do not see yourself as one hoping. See yourself as one having. Feel the weight of the gold, the ease of freedom, the smile of fulfillment. Feel it so real that when you open your eyes, the world has no choice but to mirror it. Remember, what you imagine with feeling becomes fact. What you assume with faith becomes fate. You are not here to chase wealth. You are here to awaken as wealth itself. The moment you close your eyes and accept that truth, you will open them to a new world. I am living proof. I closed my eyes and opened a $1,000,000 reality, and so can you. The door to that reality is not out there. It is behind your eyelids, waiting for you to believe. When I began to truly live in imagination, I discovered something astonishing. Life responds not to effort, but to inner alignment. The more I tried to do, the more resistance I felt. But the more I simply became, the more doors opened without effort. The outside world began to feel like a dream I could influence by changing how I felt within. Every time I would close my eyes and enter the scene of my fulfilled desire, I would sense the power shifting. It was as if invisible hands were rearranging people, places, and events to fulfill my inner decree. At first, the mind resists this truth. The logical mind insists that action creates results, that one must struggle, compete, and hustle. But I tell you, action without inner conviction is like planting seeds in dry sand. The soil of manifestation is not effort, but consciousness. When you act from a state of lack, you can work 1,000 hours and gain nothing. But when you act from the state of wealth, even the smallest movement ripples across the universe with power. I realized that imagination is not pretending, it is selecting. Just as a radio tuner doesn't create music, but selects a frequency, imagination tunes into the dimension of your desire. The $1,000,000 version of you already exists, breathing, moving, and living in another vibrational state. You don't create him, you align with him. You don't force reality, you shift awareness. Every night I would perform what Neville called the secret of prayer. I would lie still, close my eyes, and imagine not the process, but the end. I didn't think of how I would earn $1,000,000. I imagined the feeling of already having it. I heard the words, "Congratulations." I saw the expression on my loved ones' faces as they celebrated with me. I felt the confidence of knowing that financial freedom was now my natural state. And every night, before sleep took me, I would feel that sense of satisfaction so deeply that it seemed more real than the world I awoke to. I would enter sleep not as a man in lack, but as one who possessed everything he desired. That is the key, to feel it so real that you fall asleep in the assumption of its truth. Days passed, and slowly, reality began to bend. The same world that once looked barren now shimmered with possibilities. I walked down the same streets, but they looked different because I was different. I spoke differently. My energy carried authority. The way people treated me changed because their behavior was only an echo of my state. As Neville said, you cannot persist in imagining wealth and remain poor. It's not about convincing the world, it's about convincing yourself. The world is simply the mirror. When I finally believed that I was a man of wealth, the world had no choice but to reflect that conviction. The phone began ringing with opportunities that felt like divine appointments. I found myself at the right place, at the right time, meeting the right people. But I knew none of it was random. It was my own consciousness arranging itself. There were days when doubt tried to return. The mind loves to measure, to calculate, to look at what is. But whenever fear whispered, I closed my eyes, I turned within, and I reminded myself, I am the cause. I would go into imagination and feel again the sensation of wealth, security, expansion, joy. I would dwell in that feeling until the outer noise faded, and every single time, the outer conditions would eventually catch up. The beauty of this truth is that it frees you completely. You no longer need to manipulate circumstances, chase people, or beg life for blessings. You become the source. You stop asking when and start declaring now. You realize that everything you have ever sought outside yourself, love, money, peace, status, has always been waiting within, asleep in imagination. When I closed my eyes, I met that version of myself that already had it all. He was calm, confident, radiant, grateful. I spent time with him, not in words, but in vibration. I would ask myself, how does he feel? How does he think? How does he move through life? And slowly I began to merge with him. Soon my actions were no longer attempts. They were expressions. I wasn't trying to become rich. I was expressing the richness I already was. The difference is subtle, but it is everything. The struggler acts to get, the awakened acts to reveal. One moves in fear, the other in faith. When you act from the state of fulfillment, even the smallest thing, an email, a handshake, a post becomes charged with power, because it carries the vibration of completeness. That is why Neville said, "Your assumption, though false, if persisted in, will harden into fact." You must persist, not with effort, but with faith. Every time I walked into my imagination, I was rewriting my destiny. The old story of struggle, of not enough, of waiting, was erased. I would see myself in scenes of abundance, receiving checks, giving freely, living generously. I would feel the sunlight on my face as if the universe itself was smiling back at me. And then it happened again and again. Money flowing from unexpected directions, new partnerships forming effortlessly, creative ideas blooming in my mind as if whispered from a higher source. The world responded, as it always does, to my inner conviction. I began to notice something profound. Imagination was faster than time. The moment I would feel something deeply, outer events would shift almost instantly. People would call, circumstances would turn, and what seemed impossible would dissolve into ease. I realized that imagination is the true law of cause and effect. There were nights when I would sit in silence and simply repeat within myself, "I am." Those two words carry infinite power. I am is the name of God, the awareness of being. Whatever you attach to I am becomes your experience. When I said, "I am rich," I wasn't making a wish, I was declaring identity. The universe, being obedient to consciousness, had to mirror it back. Slowly, I learned to treat my imagination as sacred. Every thought became a seed, every feeling a command. I stopped indulging in conversations of lack, of waiting, of someday. I refused to speak of what I didn't want. Instead, I began to saturate my inner dialogue with gratitude and fulfillment. When bills would come, I would bless them and imagine more than enough. When challenges appeared, I would smile and say, "This too is leading me higher." Nothing could disturb the state I lived in, because I knew it was the root of all appearances. One day, while driving, a thought came, "You no longer imagine wealth, you are wealth." It wasn't ego, it was truth. I could feel abundance radiating from me, not as possessions, but as presence. Everywhere I looked, life mirrored that radiance. You begin to understand that reality is not something that happens to you. It happens through you. Every person you meet is yourself pushed out. Every conversation a reflection of your own inner talk. If someone treats you with disrespect, it's not personal. It's an echo of a belief you still hold about yourself. Change the belief and the world changes. When I fully grasped this, I stopped blaming, judging, or resenting anyone. I became the silent author of my own play. I could look at any circumstance and say, "This too I have imagined." And because I imagined it, I could unimagine it. I could close my eyes and write a new script. Do you see the freedom in that? You are not trapped in any story. You can, at any moment, close your eyes and choose another identity. You can rise from poverty to wealth, from loneliness to love, from fear to faith, simply by assuming the state. Neville said, "States are like rooms. You can leave one and enter another." When I finally walked into the room of abundance, I found it furnished with peace, joy, and certainty. Everything I once chased came rushing toward me. Because the law is simple, to those who have, more shall be given. When you feel you already have, the world multiplies it. The old me used to beg life to change. The new me commands it by feeling the wish fulfilled. And that command is not arrogance. It is divine authority. You are the operant power. You are the dreamer of the dream. Sometimes when I tell people this truth, they say, "But what if I imagine and nothing happens?" and I smile. Because the truth is, something always happens. Imagination never fails. It's just that you may be imagining the wrong thing. You may be feeling fear while saying affirmations of abundance. You may be imagining delay while hoping for speed. But if you persist in the feeling of fulfillment, if you live and breathe as though it were already done, the outer world must conform. The law is impersonal. It doesn't respond to hope or need. It responds to assumption. You can beg for a lifetime, but the moment you assume, the work is done. That assumption becomes the blueprint, and all of life rushes to build the picture you hold within. There were times I tested it with small things, finding parking spots, receiving unexpected messages, witnessing small synchronicities. Every success deepened my faith, and soon I no longer called them miracles. They were natural results of consciousness in motion. Imagination is like breathing. You are doing it every moment, whether consciously or unconsciously. The question is, what are you imagining? Are you rehearsing fear, lack, and failure? Or are you rehearsing freedom, power, and success? Whatever you dwell on long enough becomes your reality. So now, whenever I desire something new, I don't ask how. I simply go within, close my eyes, and dwell in the feeling that it's already mine. I let the inner movie play out. I hear the words I would hear, see what I would see, feel what I would feel, and then I rest. I trust that imagination is doing the work unseen. In time, life always catches up. It must. The outer world is a delayed echo of the inner world. There are moments when I walk through my home, touch the things around me, and remember, they all began as imagination. Every object, every experience, every opportunity, born in the invisible. I once saw these scenes only behind closed eyes, and now I walk among them. That realization fills me with awe. Imagination is the bridge between worlds, the seen and the unseen. When you master it, you hold the key to every kingdom. You can move mountains without lifting a finger, not through magic, but through law. And what is this law? It is simple. Assume the feeling of the wish, fulfilled, and persist in that assumption until it hardens into fact. There were moments when I doubted, when nothing seemed to move. But even then, I learned to rest, for stillness is power. The seed doesn't grow the instant you plant it. You must allow it time to take root. The same is true for your assumptions. The outer world will test you, asking, do you still believe? And your answer must always be yes, not in words, but in feeling. One day, you awaken to realize you no longer try to believe. You simply know. That knowing is the birthplace of miracles. You feel a quiet confidence that everything desired is already yours. And from that state, life becomes effortless. You stop chasing and begin attracting. You stop pleading and begin receiving. The old struggle fades like a bad dream. You walk through the world as the embodiment of divine imagination, knowing that the invisible hand is always working on your behalf. I cannot describe the joy of this realization, to know that you are the cause, that everything is yourself pushed out, is the ultimate liberation. The fear of lack dissolves, the fear of time dissolves. You stand in the center of your own creation, shaping it with thought, feeling, and faith. Whenever I meet someone struggling financially, I no longer tell them to work harder. I tell them to imagine better, to close their eyes and see themselves as already wealthy, not someday, but now, to stop begging life for scraps and begin commanding their inner world with authority. Because the truth is, you are already everything you wish to be. The only reason you haven't experienced it is because you haven't accepted it. The moment you claim it inwardly, it begins to manifest outwardly. So every day, I live in imagination first. I walk in the unseen before I walk in the seen. I give thanks for things before they appear, knowing that gratitude is the vibration of completion. When I close my eyes, I am free, I am powerful, I am infinite, and from that infinite awareness, I open my eyes and see the reflection of my assumption shimmering before me like a perfect mirror. The moment you realize imagination creates reality, life becomes an extraordinary game of awareness. You no longer fear what others call facts, because you know facts are only past imaginations materialized. You see through appearances. You look at the so-called impossible and smile, for you know there is nothing fixed. The outer world is malleable, fluid, obedient to the inner command. When you understand this, you become fearless. You no longer bow before circumstances, because you have learned to command them. When I walk through my days now, I move as one who knows that every encounter is a mirror of my own consciousness. If someone offers me kindness, I thank my inner self for imagining it. If someone offends me, I no longer react. I revise. Revision, as Neville taught, is the secret art of forgiveness. It means to rewrite the past in imagination until it feels as though it always unfolded in harmony. I practice this daily. Whenever something displeasing occurs, I close my eyes and imagine it differently. I see it end well, feel it resolved, hear words of love or success where there once were conflict or delay. Then, I rest in that feeling of completion, and the outer event changes itself to match. It is miraculous to watch, yet perfectly natural once you understand the law. I have seen deals resurrect themselves, relationships heal, opportunities reappear, all because I refuse to accept the outer picture as final. The world may tell you it's over, it's too late, there's no chance, but imagination never accepts defeat. What you see with your physical eyes is nothing but crystallized imagination from a previous state. Change the inner picture, and the outer must obey. You have been given the divine gift of consciousness. Use it. Do not waste it on worry or complaint. Every time you indulge in fear, you are rehearsing the very thing you wish to avoid. Every time you speak of limitation, you are giving it life. Guard your inner conversations as though they were royal decrees, for they are. The words you repeat to yourself in silence are the builders of your tomorrow. I remember a day when I sat quietly in a cafe, watching people rushing by. They looked weary, anxious, lost in their own storms. And a soft voice within me whispered, "They are asleep, dreaming they are powerless." In that instant, I saw the world for what it was, a great dream of imagination. Most people dream passively, unaware that they are the dreamers. But the awakened dreamer shapes the dream. From that day, I vowed to never again accept any state as permanent. I became a traveler between worlds, moving through states of consciousness like rooms in a vast mansion. If a state displeased me, lack, fear, doubt, I would leave it by assuming a new one. I am wealthy. I would say with inner conviction, I am secure. I am divine abundance made visible. And as surely as night becomes day, the outer picture would shift. When you truly grasp this, the old habits begin to dissolve. You stop chasing money because you know money is just a symbol of your state. You stop struggling for recognition because you know identity creates reflection. You stop fearing rejection because you understand everyone around you is yourself made visible. If someone does not recognize your worth, it is not an insult. It is an invitation to recognize it within yourself more deeply. I began to live in a new rhythm. Before every action, I would close my eyes for a moment and feel the outcome already achieved. If I was writing an email, I imagined the person receiving it with joy. If I was making a deal, I imagined hearing, "It's done, congratulations." If I was stepping into a meeting, I imagined the atmosphere of mutual respect and success. and without fail, life would echo those inner tones. It was as though an invisible current began carrying me. Everything that once felt heavy now moved with grace. Even challenges transformed into blessings. When difficulties arose, I would say to myself, "This too shall serve me," and inevitably it did. The outer world cannot defy the inner decree. I began to understand what Neville meant when he said, "You are the operant power." The law of consciousness doesn't act itself. It waits for you to operate it. The universe is like a faithful servant, carrying out whatever command you impress upon it through feeling. It does not discriminate between good or bad, wanted or unwanted. It simply manifests what you feel to be true. That is why awareness is everything. I learned that desire itself is proof of its fulfillment. You would not desire what you were incapable of manifesting. The feeling of desire is life calling you to assume the state in which that desire is already fulfilled. You do not chase it. You receive it within. You merge with it in imagination until you and the desire are one. That merging is conception, and all conception must give birth. The first time I truly understood this, I was overwhelmed by gratitude. I realized I had been walking through heaven blindfolded, begging for what was already mine. Every time I said, "I want to be rich," I was affirming that I was poor. But when I said, "I am wealth," the universe bowed. The words "I am" carry the creative power of God Himself. They are the beginning and the end of every manifestation. I started to feel wealth as a living energy, not numbers on a screen. It was a vibration of freedom, generosity, expansion. I felt it in the way I walked, the way I breathed, the way I spoke. People began to respond differently. Doors opened, ideas flowed, synchronicities multiplied. The outer world was simply catching up to the new vibration within. I remember a moment when I walked past a luxury store that once intimidated me. I used to glance through its windows and think, "Someday." But that day I stopped, closed my eyes briefly, and felt ownership. I imagined walking inside, greeted warmly, feeling at home. I felt the texture of fine things, the scent of wealth in the air. When I opened my eyes, the sense of separation was gone. I no longer felt like an outsider peering in. I felt like the source of it all. In that moment, I understood something profound. Imagination doesn't just change your life, it changes your identity. You begin to see yourself not as a seeker, but as the creator. And once you see yourself that way, the world bends to match. You no longer measure success by money alone, because wealth becomes a reflection of inner abundance. You realize the same power that manifests money can manifest health, love, peace, and fulfillment. It is one law expressing through infinite forms. The more I practiced, the more effortless it became. I didn't need long visualizations or rituals. A simple shift of feeling, a deep breath and a quiet "I am" was enough to alter everything. Because the law does not respond to duration, but to conviction. 1 second of pure assumption outweighs hours of doubt. I began to test it in every area. When I wanted harmony in relationships, I didn't try to change the other person. I imagined them loving, kind, understanding. When I wanted healing, I didn't fight illness. I assumed the feeling of being perfectly whole. When I wanted clarity, I didn't search for answers. I imagined already knowing. Every time, the outer mirrored the inner. And yet, the beauty of this law is that it never becomes mechanical. It remains mystical. Each manifestation feels like grace, like a sacred unveiling. You begin to sense that behind imagination itself stands a presence, limitless, loving, aware. That presence is who you truly are. You are not a human trying to manifest divine things. You are the divine dreaming human experience. When you close your eyes and imagine, you are speaking the language of God. Every picture, every emotion, every assumption is a divine word made flesh. The outer world is the echo of that eternal conversation. I often sit in silence now, simply feeling the vastness within, the stillness behind all form. The awareness that is unchanging while the world dances in infinite variety. I have come to understand that manifestation is not about getting, it is about remembering, remembering who you are, remembering that imagination is not a tool you use, but your very being. When you know this, you can walk through fire and not be burned. You can lose everything and rebuild it effortlessly, because the real treasure is not outside, it is within. The world can take away your possessions, but it cannot touch your consciousness. And as long as you have that, you have everything. I often think of those words, "Be still and know that I am God." They are not a religious phrase. They are the instruction manual of creation. Still your mind. Withdraw from the evidence of the senses. Know that your I am is the creative power itself. Feel from the end, live from the wish fulfilled, and the unseen becomes seen. The more I lived in this awareness, the more beauty filled my life. The struggle vanished, the idea of competition dissolved. I saw abundance everywhere, every flower, every sunrise, every breath spoke of limitless supply. The same power that paints sunsets flows through my imagination. To align with it is to live in constant miracle. Sometimes, late at night, I revisit the moment I first closed my eyes to imagine wealth. I see that version of myself tired, uncertain, desperate, and I feel immense compassion. For he was only asleep, dreaming separation from his own power. Now I know there was never separation. The dream of limitation was only a passing shadow. The reality has always been one thing: consciousness. As I dwell in this knowing, I watch the world transform continually. Every desire fulfilled leads to another revelation of who I am. I no longer seek to accumulate, I seek to express. I no longer manifest to prove, I manifest to expand joy. And every creation, from the smallest gesture to the grandest miracle, is born from the same act, closing my eyes and assuming the state desired. I live now with my eyes open to the truth, but always ready to close them to the illusion. The moment anything appears contrary to my desire, I retreat inward, adjust the feeling, and return to the world renewed. This is the secret of mastery, not control over others, but dominion over self. Not striving for outcomes, but resting in identity. The world moves at the command of your inner tone. You need not shout, struggle, or persuade. Whisper the truth within, and the universe rearranges itself to echo your whisper. That is the gentleness of divine power. When I speak now, I do not teach theories. I share living experience. I have seen imagination lift me from obscurity to abundance, from confusion to clarity, from fear to dominion. I have watched time itself bend, bringing into the present what once seemed far away. You begin to realize that there is no future event waiting to happen, only states waiting to be occupied. The moment you feel it real, you enter that timeline. The outer scene simply catches up in due season. Everything that ever will be already exists in potential within imagination. To assume is to choose. Even now, as you listen or read these words, another version of you, the fulfilled one, exists, beckoning you to join it. That self is not distant. It lives one thought away, one feeling away, one assumption away. Close your eyes and feel it. Step into that state as naturally as stepping into a new room. Do not wait for permission. Do not look for proof, be it. Every time I do this, reality bends, it never fails. The world must mirror consciousness, for consciousness is all there is. Nothing exists independently of your awareness. The trees, the sky, the people, the wealth, all of it is consciousness clothed in form. So I live in continuous creation. I imagine lovingly for others. I see everyone as prosperous, healthy, fulfilled. Because I know that what I assume for another, I also experience myself. There is only one imagination expressing through many masks. Love, therefore, becomes the highest act of creation. To imagine lovingly is to align with divine will. And when I close my eyes now, I do not do it to escape. I do it to create, to commune, to remember. I close them lightly as one returning home, and in that inner silence I find the same voice that whispered to me long ago, "You are the dreamer, not the dream." And I smile, for I know that everything I behold is the reflection of that simple, eternal truth. My friends, as you stand at the edge of your own unseen world, dare, yes, dare, to close your eyes and awaken the riches already yours in imagination. For when you close your eyes, you are not escaping reality. You are creating it. You are stepping into the workshop of God Himself, for imagination is the creative power by which all things were made. The world calls it daydreaming, but those who know its law call it creation. The moment you accept that your imagination is not a fantasy, but the only reality, your life begins to rearrange itself in miraculous ways. People appear, opportunities unfold, circumstances shift, and everything you once struggled to force into existence comes gliding to you with ease. You will see money flow where once there was lack, love appear where there was loneliness, confidence replace fear, and abundance blossom where there was once only doubt. Do not chase the $1,000,000 world. Close your eyes and feel the $1,000,000 self. Do not beg life to change. Assume that it already has. Do not wait for proof. Be the proof. Walk as if it were done. Think as if it were finished. Feel as if it were true. That is the sacred act of faith Neville spoke of. That is the language the universe responds to feeling. Every time you dare to feel the wish fulfilled, a new universe is born within you. And when you open your eyes, the outer world must bow to the inner decree. This is the secret of every mystic, every sage, every self-made millionaire who understood that consciousness alone is the cause. So tonight, when you close your eyes, do not seek escape. Seek revelation. Feel the wealth that already belongs to you. Feel it as real, so real that the dream becomes the fact. For the world will always mirror the state you occupy. If you dwell in lack, the world will echo scarcity. If you dwell in abundance, life must answer with overflowing good. So live now in that fulfilled feeling. Let it become your dwelling place, your home, your identity. Remember, you do not manifest what you want. You manifest what you are. So, be the millionaire in consciousness. Be the one who already possesses the dream, and your world will rush to catch up. Close your eyes tonight knowing the universe has already said yes. Open them tomorrow to a reality transformed by the power of your own assumption. For when you truly believe, when you live the state of your fulfilled desire, then, my friend, when you open your eyes, you will find yourself standing inside your $1,000,000 reality.